Have you ever wondered how we can mathematically predict the exact hours of daylight on any given day of the year? I mean, think about it. From the absolute longest day in late June all the way to the shortest, darkest day in December, nature follows this perfect, undeniable rhythm. But how do we actually capture that rhythm on paper?
Well, the answer isn't magic, and it definitely isn't just some rough guess. It's a highly precise, cyclical mathematical model, and it's built entirely on the trigonometric functions that we are going to completely master in this lecture. So, here are our 3 key takeaways for today. By the end of this explainer, you're going to confidently understand the unit circle and radians, master core trig identities, and learn exactly how to graph these powerful waves. All right, let's start with our foundational building blocks, degrees versus radians. Now, to use trigonometric functions, we obviously first have to measure our angles. Most of us grew up using degrees, right? 360 degrees for a full circle, 180 for a half. But in higher level math, we shift over to radians, where a full circle is 2 pi and a half circle is simply pi. Now, you might be asking yourself, and hey, this is a super common point of confusion, wait, why do we even need radians instead of just sticking to familiar degrees? Well, the reason is that radians are actually a much more natural measurement. See, a radian relates directly to the physical arc length on a unit circle, which is just a circle with a radius of 1. So when an angle is 1 radian, the length of the curve you just walked along the edge of that circle is exactly 1. And because a half circle is exactly 180 degrees and also exactly pi radians, we can easily translate between the two. We just use pi over 180 as our conversion factor. So look at it this way. If you want to convert, say, 225 degrees into radians, you simply multiply 225 by pi over 180, and boom, you seamlessly get 5 pi over 4 radians. Easy, right? Okay, let's dive into the unit circle itself and define our 6 basic trigonometric functions. If you draw an angle from the center of a circle of radius 1, that angle's line will eventually hit the edge of the circle at a specific point, an x and y coordinate. Our 6 basic trig functions? They're really just names for these coordinates and their ratios. Sine is simply the y coordinate. Cosine is the x coordinate. Tangent is y divided by x. And the other 3, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, well, those are just the reciprocals. Now, looking at all those exact values for sine and cosine, it might seem like a lot of data to memorize. But here is a massive teacher's tip. Memorizing this single table for just the first quadrant gives you the cheat codes for the entire circle. Seriously, once you know that the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2, you can figure out the coordinates for corresponding angles in literally every other quadrant just by flipping the positive and negative signs. Let's do a quick retention check here. How do these abstract circle coordinates actually relate to a standard right triangle in the physical world? Well, if you drop a straight vertical line down from that point on the circle to the x-axis, you've just drawn a right triangle. The x-coordinate becomes your adjacent side, the y-coordinate is your opposite side, and the circle's radius, that's your hypotenuse. Let's make this even easier with a real-life analogy. Imagine a builder constructing a wooden ramp to a staircase that's 4 feet high. The ground angle needs to be exactly 10 degrees. So how long is the ramp? Well, the sine of 10 degrees equals the opposite side, which is our 4-foot height, divided by our unknown ramp length x. By solving for x, the builder mathematically knows the ramp must be exactly 23 feet long. Pretty cool, right? All right, moving on to essential trigonometric identities. Now that we understand the basic geometry, let's look at the algebra. We're going to explore trig identities, which are fundamental equations that remain absolutely true for all defined angles. You can kind of think of these identities grouped together as your ultimate mathematical toolkit. You've got reciprocal identities to flip fractions. You've got Pythagorean identities, like sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, which let you instantly swap sines for cosines. And you have double angle formulas, which act like a scalpel to break down massive, complex angles into smaller, solvable pieces. Let's actually put this into practice. How would we solve the equation 1 plus cosine of 2 theta equals cosine of theta? Well, using our double angle toolkit, we can rewrite that cosine of 2 theta as 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. The 1's conveniently cancel out, and we are left with a much simpler equation. 2 cosine squared theta equals cosine theta. Now wait, this is important. What we have right here is a trap. A very, very common mistake students make is looking at that equation and thinking, oh, great, let's just divide both sides by cosine of theta to simplify it. So why can't we do that?
Here's the crucial point. You absolutely cannot divide by a variable expression that might equal 0. If cosine of theta happens to be 0, you just broke the fundamental laws of math. And worse, you'll permanently lose half of the correct answers to your problem. So the golden rule here is factor, don't divide. Move everything to one side and factor it out.
Next up, graphing trigonometric waves. Let's transition from algebra back to visual modeling. When we take these repetitive, circular values and plot them moving forward in time on a graph, they beautifully stretch out into continuous, periodic waves. To graph these waves, we use a master transformation formula. F of x equals a times cosine of b times x minus alpha plus c. By applying these 4 specific constants, we can essentially stretch, squash, and slide any basic sine or cosine wave to model almost any repetitive action in the universe. Let's break down exactly what each letter actually does to the graph. A is the amplitude. It stretches the wave vertically, making it taller. B alters the period, which is basically how long it takes for one full wave cycle to complete. Alpha is our phase shift, sliding the entire wave left or right. And C is our vertical shift, pushing the whole wave up or down. Oh, and here's a fun fact. A cosine wave is actually just a sine wave that's been phase shifted to the left by pi over 2. Let's apply those exact rules to sketch a graph step by step. Say our function is 3 sine of 2 times x minus pi over 4 plus 1. Step 1, our alpha shifts the starting point to the right by pi over 4. Step 2, that b value of 2 compresses the wave so it completes a full cycle in just pi time instead of 2 pi. Step 3, our a value of 3 stretches the peaks up to an amplitude of 3. And finally, step 4, our c value shifts the entire graph up 1 unit on the y-axis.
Now let's connect this to real life and bring it full circle back to our hook. The daylight model you see right here is the actual shifted sine wave used to model the exact hours of daylight for a given city, where little t is simply the day of the year. Notice our master transformation formula hard at work here.
Now, what is really fascinating here is that denominator, 365. When you calculate the period of this wave using 2 pi divided by b, that 365 perfectly represents the days in a year. This brilliantly illustrates how abstract mathematical waves seamlessly mirror our Earth's physical 365-day trip around the sun. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. Before we finish up, let's quickly summarize our core takeaways. Number 1, radians link abstract angles to actual physical arcs on a circle. Number 2, trigonometric identities are our algebraic toolkit for simplifying complex math without, dividing by 0. And number 3, graph transformations let us take those simple circle coordinates and model endless real-world cycles. So, what does this all mean? Well, you've just leveled up your understanding of the physical world. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The alternating electrical current powering the screen you're looking at right now, and the sound vibrations of my voice coming through your speakers, what other invisible waves around you are secretly controlled by sine and cosine? It's wild to think about. We'll dive into all